the first thing I want to talk about very briefly is we hear a lot about diversity and inclusion, and it's important. But what happens, and the reason why a lot of some initiatives aren't very successful, is because they neglect to talk about those real things that people have to encounter every day. The microaggressions, the micro-assaults, the gaslighting, the cognitive dissonance that sometimes happens in organisations. We don't really talk about that kind of stuff. So what happens when you go to work and you're trying your best and you're working hard and you're probably the most qualified person, you've got more experience, you trained people, they get promoted, but you're still where you are. How do you keep moving forward? Now, you could leave, you could take up a grievance, or what do? You try and get some support. So networks are where people come, yes, to get some support, yes, to be said, you know, you're not making this up, it's not in your mind, yeah, it does happen because it's happened to me. But equally important, they get together and find a way forward. Let's find a solution to help us navigate these rather, treacherous waters that we have to go through on a regular basis. I'm going to give you an example of how we do it. Now, I normally get people to move around, but because of time, I'm just going to get you to do a show of hands. Is that okay? On the screen, that's me. On the screen are 4 boxes. The colours are red, yellow, green, and navy blue. Just choose the one that appeals to you the most. Who's red? Okay, see the reds in the room, look at each other, say hi. Don't deny it now, we've clocked who you are. Who's yellows? Oh, more yellows, okay, great. Who's greens? Oh, lots of greens, okay. Are you all like in banking, financial kind of services? Okay, it's going to land why that's important. And navy blue? A sprinkling of navy blue. So who are the reds again? Let's put your hands up. So the reds are passionate, daring, and you have a pioneering spirit. But you can be a bit aggressive. You're full of your self-importance. You recruit in your own likeness, a bit bossy and a bit mouthy. That's reds. Okay? Yellows, where are you? Oh, the yellows are lovely. Happy, friendly, sunny disposition, but you are an accident waiting to happen. You are wishy-washy, fluffy, you're indecisive, you're just not taken seriously. Now, where are the greens? Okay. The greens are like salt of the earth people, natural, stable, prosperous. But you are so boring. You work in silos, you just don't have those strategic leadership qualities required to go forward. And the navy blues. Come on now, put your hand up. And it's interesting that you've chosen navy blue because people in navy blue are serene, trustworthy, inviting, reliable, strategic, innovative, friendly, excellent leadership qualities. No negatives whatsoever. Thank God you chose the blue. Now, be honest. With the exception of the blues, who's happy with the descriptions that they were given? One person. What colour were you? Red. I knew it. I knew it. It's always the reds. The reds are like, yeah, I'm going to own my bossiness. And if you had a choice today, this is how you're perceived in the organisation. So if you had a choice today to choose a colour, a different colour, which one do you think you would choose? Be honest. She's going to own that red. So most people will choose blue, okay, because they want to be seen in that way. Now imagine, this is what happens when we go into the workplace. Certain groups are placed in boxes, unbeknownst to them. So no matter how hard they work or how qualified they are only seen through the lens of the other boxes. And they're only seen through the negative lens of the other boxes. So what networks do is say to the organisation, yeah, look, we are passionate and daring, and yeah, we can be a little bit full of our self-importance, but hey, we are really innovative, we are strategic, we've got all those qualities that blues have. What we're missing is the opportunity to demonstrate that. Your procedures, your systems do not enable our members to really flex their creative muscles, to really demonstrate their leadership skills. So networks are there to help the organisation erase the lines of the boxes and mix things up a little bit. Imagine what happens with the Olympics. When we have real talent and opportunity come together, we win gold medals. So in an organisation where you refuse to allow that to happen, there's a challenge. There's a problem. People still go through the whole microaggression, micro-assaults, etc., etc. Does that make sense? Okay. So what makes a network powerful? For me, there are 5 principles. And the principles start... my presentation's the wrong way around. Sorry. Let's start off with 6 steps to start a good network, shall we? The first one is establish the need. Why do you want it? I'm not one of those people that I'm so passionate about networks that I think they are the silver bullet. They are not. They do not work in every circumstance, and I'm the first one to say that. But if you do feel that a network is the solution to a particular problem, then let's do it properly. Let's invest in them. Let's make sure that the people have the capability and the capacity to deliver. They're not just some group over there to have, steel banners, samosas, or wave a flag. It has to be more than that. It has to be more than that. It has to be about difference. So establish the need. Gather the evidence. What is the evidence telling you about the particular group of people in your organization? Yeah, what is it saying? Is it sufficient to warrant the need to do this? Test the waters. Speak to people. Yeah, it's all very well the CEO wants the network, but if the people themselves don't want to do it, then what's going on there? It's just a box to be ticked. That doesn't work. It's not sustainable. Think about learning from others. What are other organizations doing? How do their networks operate? What can we learn from them? There is no need to reinvent the wheel. And there's a fantastic book you could read called The Incredible Power of Staff Networks, plug. And what's the business case? So when you think about all of those things, formalize it into a business case, because networks are business critical. So they need that support, and they need to be focused, and they need to be clear about their outcomes. And then build on the foundation. That's getting the nuts and bolts together, the terms of reference, who's going to lead it, who's going to be the champion, who's going to be the key liaison for diversity in HR and so on. So I've just sped through those 6 steps, but there's a lot more to it than that. But these are just some of the headlines to think about. And when you've done that, let's really get into how you harness the power of networks. The first thing I see is that it's important to think about the purpose and the potential. Yeah, you have to be seen as a core group of people that's making a difference in the organisation. What is it you're trying to do? And people seem to lose that. They get all excited about starting a network, and yeah, it's great. But then excitement dissipates. So it has to be about momentum. It has to be about change. So I always talk about purpose. The other thing I talk about is opportunity. What are the opportunities that exist? Yes, of course, it's to strengthen inclusion, but there's a huge opportunity to change the narrative, to use a voice of people to talk about the ground truth of what's happening in the organisation. Yeah, to really understand what's going on. So it's an opportunity to strengthen inclusion and be a powerful voice. Nita Clark, who wrote Engagement for Success, said that the employee voice is the cheapest smoke alarm an organisation can install. And if you think about what networks can bring to the fore, what they can see what's on the horizon, they know what's going on with their communities, they can see the potential reputational risk that an organisation can have. That's powerful stuff. Wisdom, work together with wisdom, work collaboratively. Wisdom is not a word that we hear a lot about, and I love the fact that you mentioned trust, because I think when networks work together well and use wisdom, they begin to build trust in the organisation. They begin to build trust amongst their members. So working together doesn't mean that, we're all just doing this now. It's about let's be focused and let's row in the same direction so we get to where we're going. My sole purpose is to do myself out of a job. So I don't need to be talking about networks in this way, because organisations are they're inclusive by instinct. That's what I want to see happen. Expectations. Now, we need to be very careful as networks, because if you've got someone, your CEO or your permanent secretary is really excited, and so everyone's got lots of things that you should do this, and why don't you do that, and blah, 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 blah. And it's great, but just as you need to be clear about your purpose and what you can do, you need to be equally clear about what you cannot do. You have a day job. You have other responsibilities. There's only so much a network can do. So let your mantra be under promise, over deliver. Yes? Let that be your mantra. So if you find a network that's promising the earth and they're delivering nothing, there's a problem. So refocus, reframe your thinking, and let's get back to basics. And be responsible with the agenda. Be responsible with it. There's people relying on this network to really bring change, and that's a lot of pressure. It is. But no one says running a network is easy. And if anyone tells you that, they are lying to you, or they've never done it before in their life and they have no idea what they're talking about. It's one of the most challenging things you can ever do, but my goodness, you will grow and you will learn, and it will really open your eyes onto how to handle certain things. Are you still with me?
Yeah.
Great. Here's some examples. Now you might think, oh my goodness, what on earth is that? So that's the Allied Carpets building in Tottenham when there were the riots, or civil disturbances as we called it in the government. And the reason why I'm showing you that is because it was an opportunity, and nobody wanted this to happen, let's be clear. But it was an opportunity for a particular network to demonstrate its power. When this happened, this was on the Saturday right through to the Sunday. On the Monday morning, the chair of a particular network convened their emergency council, their leadership team, and they said, this is awful, what can we do? So they said, well, a lot of our members are from the communities that were affected. So they agreed to work with the policy team to find out what support is available. So any emergency that happens, someone in government hits a button and there's an immediate meeting. Ministers meet at Cobra, officials meet and in certain departments. So this is what happened. Members were deployed to the specialist team to find out what funding was available, what the recovery program was, and the network went to the affected areas and spoke to the shopkeepers, to the community, to glean evidence of what was happening. They then fed that back into the policy team and ministers to say, what you're suggesting is not working, this is the real problem. So they really showed how they could reach out on the ground, street level delivery stuff, and bring it right through to Whitehall where the decisions were being made. And that really, it was crucial, because we don't see that happening a lot in government, but the network took advantage of a terrible thing only because they wanted to help their community as well as help their organisation. So it just shows what we can do when we think innovatively. Another example, which I won't show up on the screen, I'll just quickly talk about, is Vodafone New Zealand. They wanted to reach out to their indigenous Maori community, and they were concerned that given that the population of New Zealand has 15% people that identify as being Maori, they were concerned that they weren't doing sufficient to reach out to this community. So they formed a network targeting Maori employees, and they said, what should we do? So they started to celebrate Language Week, so the soft things started to come through. But then they became a little bit bolder. Well, why aren't we targeting graduates? Why don't we create an app that helps people understand, translate English into Maori? And let's work with Google to find how we can pronounce the Maori places properly, so we're not causing offence every time we're trying to pronounce it. Little things like that, but it demonstrated the intelligence of members and the vision of the organisation and how it can work together to push the agenda forward. So that was another example. And finally, one that's closer to home, Bradford District Care in the NHS. A member of staff was racially abused by a patient. She didn't know what to do. She spoke to a colleague and they said, no, that can't be right, we must report it. There was no system in place to report it. So the HR, so the BAME network just sent an email, has anyone experienced this? And they were flooded with people coming back saying, yeah, we've done that. That's happened to us, we've been racially abused. And so they worked together with HR to not just come up with a system to report it, but to evaluate how it was handled as a result. And that policy is still in place today. So these are just very different examples of what can happen when a network is given permission to show what it really can do and supported in that. Still with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the benefits and outcomes? Stronger, confident, compassionate leaders. We mustn't forget the compassion, people. You know, we become so focused on KPIs and deliverables and etc., but we have to remember that people are at the heart of what we're doing. So we need stronger, compassionate, confident leaders. There's an improvement in collaboration because networks cannot do things in isolation. They have to work with other networks, with HR, with their champion and so on. There's an opportunity to learn new skills in a network that's not always afforded in the day job. So there's this continuous professional development. Contribute to commercial benefits of the organisation, of the business. I think that's important. Trusted source of information, the smoke alarm, as I mentioned. A more inclusive and attractive organisation. That's a huge benefit and an outcome. So, very quickly talking about building on race confidence, because this is what this is about, the power of diversity, BME leaders of the future. For me, for organisations to start building race confidence, you have to care sufficiently about the agenda and dig deeper. It's so important to do that, and staff networks are a crucial vehicle to engagement and can help the organisations make constructive use of difference. Finally, if you want to find out what race and care stand for, speak to me in the break. If you want to know what DIG stands for, speak to me in the break. How many red circles do you see? 5? Who sees 4? Who sees 6? You all see 5, yes? Okay, did you notice that he also has 5 fingers and 1 thumb? Yeah, you see that now? What networks do is help organisations see sometimes what's staring them in the face, but because they're asking the wrong question, they overlook it. Does that make sense? Yeah? So takeaway tips, care enough to be race confident. What perspective is it in the room? Who aren't we including in our conversations? And see staff networks as a powerful resource and dig deep. Dig. That's drive diversity with data, be intentional about inclusion, and be globally mindful. So do all of those, but on a deeper level. That's me. Thank you so much.